Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, police arrest a party promoter and try to track down other organisers of a New Year's Eve event in Kampala, where 10 people were killed in a stampede over the weekend. Also, a pair of Senegalese MPs are sentenced to 6 months in jail for slapping and kicking a pregnant fellow lawmaker during a chaotic parliamentary session. The victim fainted after the attack. And as France prepares for the release of a film focusing on the Senegalese Tirailleurs, a corps of colonial infantry in the French army that fought in the First and Second World Wars, we hear from those in Senegal still honouring the bravery with which the men served. But first, we head to Uganda, where a top festival promoter has been arrested in connection to a New Year's Eve party stampede in which 10 people, including children, were killed at Freedom City Mall in the capital, Kampala. Police are still trying to track down other organisers of the event, as they believe some ordered several exits shut and so contributed to causing a fatal bottleneck for revellers there at the time. Our regional correspondent, Clement Diruma, has more.
Hundreds gathered at one of the largest malls in Kampala on December 31st to celebrate and take part in a music show, but also to watch one of the capital's fireworks display. According to the police force and local news outlets, only one exit was in use when people rushed out to watch the midnight show. The stampede happened when the show was over, according to the police force, as everyone was stuck at the exit, including many young Ugandans. Some witnesses said that people were pressed together and that the crowd started panicking as some lost consciousness. 4 other exits have been ordered shut by the promoters, police said. Out of the 10 announced dead, 6 were children. According to local regulations, however, young people under the age of 18 are not allowed in this type of events. Around 4 a.m. on January 1st, families started to arrive at Kampala's mortuary to identify the victims. Investigations are now focused on how the organisers allowed access to young people and how they handled exits and security. Police said they have arrested the promoter of the New Year event and are searching for other organisers.
Clement Diruma there for us. Now, a serious outbreak of cholera in Malawi means that schools in the country's 2 biggest cities won't reopen as expected on Tuesday, but will remain closed until further notice. Primary and secondary school kids in the capital, Lilongwe, and in Blantyre will be delayed by at least 2 weeks. There have been at least 595 deaths and around 18,000 cases of cholera in the country since March. And 2 opposition MPs in Senegal have been sentenced to 6 months in prison for assaulting a female colleague during a parliamentary debate last month. Amy Njai was pregnant when she was slapped and kicked in the stomach over remarks she made about a prominent religious figure that was close to her attackers. Now, her lawyer has welcomed Monday's sentence, saying that justice has been done. For more on this, Sam Bradpiece joins us from Dakar.
The sentence was passed down in a matter of seconds. This was, after all, a fairly clear-cut case. Amy Ndiaye, an MP, part of the governing coalition, was assaulted in Senegal's National Assembly last month in front of all the cameras of the press by 2 opposition MPs, both men, who claimed that she had insulted a religious leader close to the opposition. The feeling of many people in Senegal at the time was that even if Amy Ndiaye had insulted a religious leader, she didn't deserve to be slapped in the face, and she certainly didn't deserve to be kicked in the stomach, especially considering that she was pregnant. The 2 opposition MPs have been given 6-month prison sentences, and they've been ordered to pay the equivalent of about €8,000 in damages to Amy Ndiaye. The state prosecutor had initially been calling for prison sentences of 2 years, so many might count the opposition MPs lucky. The lawyers for those opposition MPs, though, on the other hand, have said that they will appeal the court's ruling. They've always maintained that the 2 men were provoked by Amy Ndiaye's comments, and scandalously on Monday the lawyers even cast doubt on whether or not Amy Ndiaye is really pregnant. Until a decision is made regarding the appeals process, the 2 opposition MPs will officially remain in office.
Samuel Brad piece there for us. Now, the lid of a 2,700-year-old sarcophagus has been returned to Egypt 15 years after authorities there say that it was smuggled out and put on display in a museum in the United States. Egypt's foreign minister announced the repatriation of the green sarcophagus on Monday. Over the last decade, the country has been ramping up its efforts to recover lost artefacts. In 2021 alone, it managed to get back more than 5,000 from across the world. Caroline Lamboulé tells us more.
It's one of the largest wooden sarcophagi that's ever been discovered. Around 3 meters long and nearly a meter wide, the lid alone weighs nearly 500 kilograms. Egyptian authorities say that the green sarcophagus could have been made for an ancient priest. On Monday, the lid was officially returned to Egypt.
Today, we received an important ancient artifact that was looted and smuggled from Egypt to the United States a few years ago. Through the joint efforts of Egyptian, international and American authorities, and after more than 2 years of investigations, we were able to get it back.
Egypt and the U.S. have signed several agreements in recent years to fight against the smuggling of artifacts. Over the past decade, Egypt has recovered around 29,000 items, an effort that's received support from the United States.
There is outstanding cooperation between the United States and Egypt, especially in the area of cultural patrimony and the return of antiquities. The United States has also invested more than $100 million over the last 30 years in preserving and helping Egypt preserve its cultural and historical patrimony.
But for the green sarcophagus, it's only the start of the return journey home. The artifact was damaged as a result of being smuggled. Authorities are now planning to bring it to the Egyptian Museum in downtown Cairo for restoration.
Now, a film is due to open here in France this week that will, for the first time, dramatise the exploits of the hundreds of thousands of West and Central African soldiers who fought for France in the World Wars. They were known as the Tirailleurs, and that's the name in French of the film due out this week. It's known as Father and Son in English. Now, the film focuses on the story of a young Senegalese soldier conscripted into the French colonial army in World War I, and of his father, who enrolls voluntarily to try and find him. Although recruitment of black Africans for the corps known as the Senegalese Tirailleurs wasn't limited to Senegal, our team in the country have been taking a closer look there at how the brave fighters are remembered.
Fascicule de mobilisation. Ndiaye Abdoulaye, Saint-Louis du Sénégal.
Pape Abdoulaye Niane has been careful to preserve these documents.
Voilà, ça c'est le grand-père.
His grandfather was a decorated hero of the First World War, fighting for the French at heavy personal cost.
1914-1918.
It was during this war that he lost both his eyes. He was sent home to Senegal.
His niece, now 90 years old, remembers his return.
He was ill all the time, all the way through to his death. The doctor would pull out pieces of shrapnel from his body.
Around 170,000 West and Central African men were recruited by the French during World War I, many of them by force. At least 150,000 were recruited during World War II.
France owes them a debt of blood. At one point, they were told that by spilling their blood for France, they would gain full citizenship rights, a promise that France didn't respect. Many soldiers came back from the war and weren't even paid pensions despite having shed blood and contributing to the dawn of the free world.
Omar Ba tries to keep the memory of these African soldiers alive through his paintings. The internationally acclaimed artist is himself the grandson of a Senegalese soldier.
A tree without roots does not remain standing. I think that the youth needs these roots to be able to stand strong and grasp the future. I think that the African youth needs heroes, African heroes.
Senegal commemorates these soldiers, known as Tirailleurs, on the 1st of December each year.
I'm looking forward to trying to catch that film when I can. That is, though, all we have time for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks very much for joining us. Do stay with us. A short break and more news and headlines from around the world coming up.
La medida de Trípoli veut dire beaucoup pour les habitants.
Bienvenidos a las noticias de France 24.
Thanks very much for joining us. أهلا بكم في ثقافة في عدد اليوم. Ravi de vous retrouver pour Afrique Hebdo. Au programme cette semaine.
نسمع بين حين والآخر.
This storm has hit New York City a lot.
To be a president. 3, 2, 1.
Madagascar fait face à une seconde vague meurtrière.
Almost 99 million of you watch us every week. So thank you.
شكرا.
Gracias. Your confidence means a lot to us.
Muchas gracias.
شكرا على هذه الثقة.
Thank you.
Merci du fond de mon cœur.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Beyond the news. A daily opportunity to go beyond the headlines and explore the news in depth. Revisited. A return to places which were in the news a long time ago. Reporters, our in-depth reports on international news. The 51%, a program about women reshaping our world. The Observers, meet our observers who alert us to hidden realities. Focus, exclusive reports by our correspondents and journalists. And Down to Earth, on the vast potential of our planet. Every day, watch Beyond the News on France 24 and France24.com.